Hey, Charles.
What's up?
Great
KI4DCR.
Yeah, and the Martin KI4CFS. Charles is the master of scanners, and he took my RadioShack
PRO-2096.
PRO-2096. And
resurrected
it, cleaned it. So we're going to start with that. Then I'd like to come back here and do kind of a tour of all your different scanners as well. Because people have asked, a lot of people get into amateur radio from the scanner world, but then some in the ham radio world might want to learn a little bit more about scanners. And
they do, because a lot of people that are in amateur radio, I would say probably, just an offhand guess around here, 50 to 60% of people that are involved in amateur radio have some sort of a scanner, maybe standalone shortwave radio or some aircraft radio. The hobbies go hand in hand with one another, and I got started with the scanners, but some people get started with ham radio and then get into scanners, so it can go either way. But they're similar in a lot of ways, especially now that technology's kind of evened out and ham radio's got DMR, which is the DMR ham radio is kind of like the 800 megahertz of the public safety. You can sit here with the DMR radio and talk to somebody in California. Yeah. Because it's linked through the internet, and to me that's very cool. So somebody like me that had a hard time with passing his general exam the last time 10 years ago, that wants to talk to somebody far away and wants to do it without spending a lot of money on tuners and antennas, can get a DMR radio, and now you can buy a hotspot as you have and link that up with your DMR radio, and you can talk all over the world.
Right, which I've got in my car, and I'm using the D-Star, which is...
And I've got to get with you on that, because that's something that I don't know about, that I've got to learn about.
Yeah.
So we all piggyback off each other, because I've learned there's a lot of hams that I think know things that I do. I just think, well, they automatically know it, and they don't, and they'll come to me, and I'm like, hey, I love talking about things I know a little something about. So
well, that's what I love, is when you get on the radio, not the internet, the radio.
Right.
You meet a lot nicer people, and honestly, Charles, I believe sometimes people are nicer on the radio than they are on Facebook.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's no comparison. And somebody asked me a few months ago that wanted to get into ham radio. They said, well, I hear some nutcases on the radio once in a while on the HF bands, people playing music or blowing a horn or mocking somebody. What about that? I said, well, you're going to have that in any hobby. I've been with the fire department, volunteered with animal rescue groups. There's always one or two people that might not get along or you might not like. But for that every one or two people, you're going to meet 50 to 100 people that you're going to bond with, and they'll have your back, and they'll be your friend, and you'll meet them out for dinner. And like that group we put together at the restaurant, we had 30 ham radio and shortwave scanner people arrive, and most had never met one another before, and had an absolute 2 hours of the most laughter I think I've ever heard. It was great. So don't let a couple of wild cards throw you off, because there's so many other good people in the hobby that I just can't say. Like, I know you and I met before that, but I met Paul kind of through the hobby. And a lot of other people that I know, and even some of my customers have gotten, through my business, have gotten into ham radio. They've seen my radio and they thought, hey, I might want to do this, or bought a scanner.
Yeah, excellent. Well, let's go over and see what you've done with my system. So we're going to go in the kitchen. He's got it hooked up here. You've updated and revived my great RadioShack scanner here. And would you talk a little bit about what you did and how
I sprayed the keypad down with some DeoxIT D5 to revive the contacts. Also, the volume control and the squelch were made into two knobs that kind of mold together on this radio. So if any debris got in there, you'd be turning both at the same time. So I got that cleaned out, took it apart, a little brush cleaned out, put some more DeoxIT in it, labeled everything, wiped out what was in it, took an identical radio that I have, upgraded mine, and then copied mine over to this one, and then fine-tuned it for what you wanted, because you live closer to the airport, so I put airport stuff in yours. And cleaned the antenna, the connections on the back with some DeoxIT as well.
Cool.
And that was about it. It was just wiping out what was in it, which were the old frequencies that Wake and Viper used to use that were 860 and up, and they don't use that anymore. Now everything is in the 850 and 700 megahertz range. So with that, it seems to work great. I've been listening to aircraft on it. That's Raleigh Police and the Wake County simulcast systems picking that up pretty good. With an outdoor antenna, really would just really pick up just about anything you would want. And you've got a bank in here for just ham radio.
Talk to you in a bit.
Cool. So you just
got all the local,
to play the banks, you just press the button.
Select whichever one you want, press it in real quick, let it go, and it's either when it's off it won't show, and then when it's on it'll should show up with a little plus symbol next to it.
See that? Yeah.
That's a clean radio. It's been taken care of. Unlike mine that's been in and out of the car and all over the place, it's still got a good clean display on it. And it just required maybe an hour's worth of stuff to get it back to current 2020 almost
So
standards.
there are 3 ways to set this guy up. One is keypad directly, and you said it's not that hard.
And there's a program called Win96 that works on these scanners for the computer. I don't know if it's still being updated because these scanners are old technology, and the last time I looked, I think the last time it was updated was 2012. But it still works, and it's like $30, and you can go in there and do it that way. These were so easy, I prefer to just pull up Radio Reference and just fast key them in. They use a sequence of numbers, and a lot of the numbers are repetitive in a certain sequence, and after you've done it for a while, you can kind of figure it out, and it goes real fast.
And then cloning it means you have another scanner,
Yeah,
and you put them in.
You cable to the 2 of them, and boom. And you can do it with the software.
So you got software, you've got cable cloning, and then you've got the keypad. And why I want to show this is because for somebody that's not ready to get into ham radio, scanners is a good beginning.
It's excellent, and it's a good, interesting hobby. In the next 10 or 15 years, we may not have it because more stuff may go encrypted, and you might not be able to listen to it. I've been doing this since 1973 when the old crystal scanners came out, and my dad got one for me one day. And it's changed a lot, but it's still a good hobby. That it's actually easier to listen to now because back then you had to buy $8 or $9 crystal for each frequency you wanted.
Right.
So I had to save up to get more and more area to cover. But now, I remember when the first ones of these came out, it was probably in the 80s, early 80s, and they've really progressed a lot. But now you can program in one system like the Viper and listen to half of North Carolina right off of one bank.
Cool. And your advice to somebody that's in it versus ham radio, you'd recommend go ahead and get your license sooner.
They mesh with one another because you can listen to ham radio on this and get a feel for what's going on with it. And if you're a ham radio operator and you get a little burnt out on ham radio and you want something different that's radio related, you've got this.
Right.
And they go together really well.
And what would be your advice to people on scanner that want to get on ham radio?
Listen for a little while, kind of learn the lingo and how things work, and maybe go on QRZ and do a practice test for your technician like you and I did.
Right.
Get the book. Study it. And the technician's not hard now. You don't have to have any Morse code or any secret codes or anything to learn. And if I can learn it, anybody can
Same here. So our advice to your scanner people, if you see it, enjoy your scanner, but get off the scanner and start talking to some people.
Exactly.
Right? He's got a little device here. Tell us about this unit.
This is the Unication G5. And it's a dual band receiver. It's made for a fire pager, not really a scanner, but it can be used as a scanner. The problem with it so far is you can't lock on to one talk group and hold on to that. If you hear something going on, you have to have that talk group either in the top of the list of talk groups that are in your scan list or either on a separate zone. But they're working on something because they've had so much success with these for people that just want a scanner because their sensitivity and their reception is that on par with a Motorola or a Harris radio or any of the commercial stuff. So it's a really good radio. They're about $600. I got the dual band because at the time I wanted the VHF because the lifeguards down at the beach used that. Don't really use it a whole lot, but it's 700 and 800 megahertz, easy to program with software. I've programmed it from other people. I programmed mine. I change it around frequently, add new stuff, tweak it. The other day I added Cary, Rocky Mount, the Durham system. Since Susan goes to Durham for treatments, we go up there. So now I go up to Duke and I can hear all of Duke Hospital. I can hear
Durham County.
the Duke VA,
Durham County Court.
Highway Patrol.
KI4DCR.
And this thing is amazing. I added a Motorola custom-made short antenna to it for 700 to 800 megs. And you can also connect it to a mag mount in your vehicle. If you do that, it's not uncommon. I can get, that's Nash County, and we're a good 40, 50 miles away from that tower. It comes, you can buy an amplified charger for it. It sits in that charger and then connects to an outdoor antenna. I have a little, just an 800 megahertz discone on it. But you can connect it to any antenna that accepts a BNC connector on the back, and I use it down at the beach, and I can get towers that are 80 miles away with it. But you can see it picked up where the $500 Uniden took a while to find that.
Right.
But this didn't. These are probably the best radios around because it's small, it lasts a long time on the battery, you can go in and tweak it and do all kinds of things. It doesn't have a headphone jack, but any headphones that have Bluetooth capability, especially the sport earbuds, you can go in here and Bluetooth it, set it up, pair it, and you can ride down the road and put your, I like the one earbud jobs, like the old kind of Jabra earbuds. You can put one of those in there and listen to this while you're cruising around, leaving one ear free for, you know, safety and stuff. But it's got a belt clip. I've got a custom leather case for it. It's actually like a real thick, some kind of industrial fabric case in the truck that has a steel belt clip for it. But I bought the amplified charger. I don't use it that much here, but if you go and travel, I've even heard of people putting those in their vehicle and running an external antenna, mounting it on the dash, and then you've got the long distance range for it. But this, to me, is as good as any Motorola radio out there. And they're updating it constantly. This will receive Phase 2, P25. It'll also do DMR, among other things. I don't have any negative things to say about it. It's compact. Battery. You know, ideally, some of these things would be nice to have a battery you could switch out. But this thing will last. I can get 2 or 3 days out of it on one charge. And you can put a USB cord in it and charge it through either a cigarette lighter or any USB port.
And you really want to program this with the software, right?
You have to. There's no other way. Yep. That's the only way on this guy.
And does it come with software? Or?
It does. It comes with this, a standard desktop charger that does not have the antenna connection on it. And I'm trying to think if it comes with a case, just the belt clip. And they come with a little stock antenna that does pretty decent. It's about as big as maybe the width of your finger. It's just I call it a button antenna, but if you really want the best, you take one of these, and you can see I need to trim the rubber off it a little bit to make it fit perfectly. But these do a lot of different things. You can go in and change to the different zones, the LCD brightness, the alert mode, and they'll also page. So say if you're with Raleigh Fire Department, you want to put the Raleigh Fire or Wake County tone in there and put the 2-tone Motorola codes, it'll actually alert you and stay silent until an alert for your department comes in, and it'll beep or make a siren or whatever kind of sound effect you want it to do. So that's what it was made for to begin with, but they've had such good response with people using them for scanners, and they're selling like mad. I mean, everybody's buying these things. I probably know right now 20 hams that have these that have bought them on my recommendation in the last year.
Cool.
I got this one. The company that made them had some demos, and they were selling them at reduced prices on eBay, and I got this one for like $450 a while back, and I've had no problems with it. I've updated the firmware, updated the software, like they say. Real easy to do. Go on their site, connect the cable to it, follow their prompts, it resets itself, and you're good to go. So that's a very new thing that's come out.
So this is the
Uniden SDS, which stands for Software Defined 200. It's the base version of Uniden's SDS 100.
Right.
It's easily programmable with a computer. Go in there and select all your favorite stuff. Upload it to this. It uses a micro SD card to store your stuff on. And then when you take it traveling, you can go away from that and put it back in the main mode and search and punch in your zip code, and it'll pick up everything where you're at just by entering your zip code or using a GPS, which is available for it. They're like, I don't know, $50 to $80 for a GPS thing that goes out the back. It's good, but it doesn't receive quite as well as this little guy does, and they're about the same price.
Wow.
This also will do DMR and next in, but you got to pay $75. Just like the rest of them, anything you do to upgrade them to get a new format of technology, they're going to charge you between $50 and $75.
Is that hardware or software?
Software, you just connect it, pay the $75. It gives you a code. You enter that code, put the cable to it, and it updates it. Takes about 5 minutes.
I see.
It's a good radio. It's bigger. This is smaller. I can throw it on the belt, walk into a restaurant with it, go anywhere. I throw it on the visor of the truck. You don't even really know it's there. Bluetooth it to the vehicle and listen to it through the stereo speakers sometimes. But the best thing is to get one of these things on Amazon. It's a little Bluetooth thing. They're like $20, and you can Bluetooth this to that and just listen out of one ear and not disturb anybody else.
Cool. Two very cool scanners. So this is, you'd recommend too, and it's, even though it has a keypad, it's really designed to be.
Yeah, that's more for entering your zip code. If you go, like I went to Washington D.C. and I took it up there, and I punched in the zip code when we were in downtown D.C. and it got everything that was not encrypted. A lot of stuff's gone encrypted up there for obvious reasons, but there's still a lot of stuff to listen to up there. Went to New York, took it up there. New York's not much encrypted up there. And it was great. You put in your zip code, what types of services you want to listen to, and boom, you're off and running in 5 minutes. And then when you get back, you can just go into the menu, choose your favorites again. It'll upload them back, and you're back to where you were before you left home.
Cool.
It's good technology. If it would just receive as well as this, it would be the #1 thing on the market. And then this one below it was Unidon's radio they came out with before this. This was a 996 P2, and that stands for Phase 2. So it covers all the newest stuff that's out there. And I have it set up for a lot of business frequencies. It's stopped now on like a plumbing service out of Smithfield. I have Duke Hospital has their own private security system here in Raleigh. North Hills, which is Kane Security, I have that in there. I have Triangle Town Center Mall Security. I have a lot of DMR in that radio. Most everything that's in there is 400 megahertz, 400 to 500 in that range. And that's pretty cool to use for that reason. And it works well it works superiorly well on DMR and 440. It's very sensitive for VHF. Awesome radio for aircraft. I have a lot of military aircraft stuff set up in here. I can hear air-to-air refueling from Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force Base. And that's a radio that still sells for about $299, and you can do a lot with that. It's real easy to program. You really don't need the software. If you can program an iPhone to set up your contacts, you can program that radio. It's not very difficult.
And then we got, looks like, what's down there? RadioShack, the next level.
That's
right?
pretty much the same radio, almost exactly, that I did for you, just about 2 years newer.
Okay.
But this one was very hard to program. This one, you pretty much got to use the software because it's an object defined. It's not a bank defined. Everything is based around objects instead of banks. So if you're used to scanners like these that have banks of frequencies like yours, and you go to this, you're like, what did I do? You got to get the software for that. I don't use this one that much for that reason, but it works fantastic. It picks up, all these simulcast and trunk systems and all that. Great. I don't think it'll do Phase 2 though, and a lot of stuff is going to Phase 2.
What does Phase 2 mean?
Phase 2 is just an upgraded version of the P25 system. It's just a different sort of transmission technology that they use. It's a little more secure than the Phase 1. It's not encrypted or anything, but and that's a little bit more that I've not really dove into the technicalities of all that. But you'll still be able to receive it. But what it does is it knocks a lot of the older scanners out of the market because at that point in time they were made. There was no P2 ever in the world. And then you go down here and you got Motorola. These are older Motorola's. Some people like the newer ones. I don't. I like these. They're durable as all get out. You can't really hurt them. They're easy to program. I can go into my computer, hook a cord cable to this, and reprogram any channel in here in less than 5 minutes. It's really easy to do. They'll cover all the ham bands. I have a bunch of them, as you can see. I've got one for 440. I got a 220 one, those are pretty rare. Another different style Motorola with a lot of 400. It's a 400 megahertz one with Chatham Police and a lot of ham radio channels in that as well. So I've got a lot of different things going on here. And, but if you have a big event going on, you want several different radios, to keep up with it. And then I also have this guy here, which is a DMR. It's the Connect Systems CS800.
I have that and it's not set up, so I'll be
I
trying to
can do
copy
that
off of that,
too,
okay?
because with this, all I do is I go over here and I flip a switch to DMR antenna on the roof.
Right.
And then grab the microphone.
Notice how he has them labeled. I love that.
Yeah. And
You
then
gotta
just-
label this stuff, or you won't.
You should be able to just key it right up.
Cool.
Carry PRN. So that's handy, because I can switch antennas and turn this one off and go over to DMR, and then when I'm done with DMR, switch back to this one.
Talk a little bit about how this case. Where'd you get that? I love that.
This is from a place called ScannerMaster.com, and they make these for 2 radios, 3 radios, 4 radios, or I believe 5. And I'm going to take this one to the beach and use it because I have 3 down there, and I'm going to order the newest one that has the 5. And they work great for all of the scanners and most of the stuff until you get a Motorola, which is a little bit more narrow. Then you have to go to Ace and get some spacers and some longer screws to put in there, but they'll work for the Motorola's too. They're real easy to deal with all the normal scanners. You just take the mounting bracket off the thing, stick it in here, use the same knobs that came with the scanner, and they're perfectly made for that. All the scanners will fit it, but the Motorola stuff, you've got to tweak it a little bit. I even think that that Yaesu 857 would probably fit in it with some spacers.
Which is your HF.
But those are about $50 from ScannerMaster, and they're very well made. They don't rust. I've got another one down at the beach. It's been there 3 years. It's in great shape, and they're a great way to keep radios from moving around. And that way you can get in there and mess with them. Instead, this one I don't have screwed in there yet, so it wobbles all over the place because it's a little more narrow because it's not a scanner, so you got to get some
washers or something.
And it takes a really weird size metric screw for that. So that one I would have to do a little bit more work with. But a lot of these radios too, I have these little, you can get these off of eBay. They're about $10-15 a piece.
And they work
They were
good.
made for Bluetooth cell phones back when we had in-car cell phones. But they work fantastic. The sound quality is amazing with them. They'll last forever.
Yeah.
If you have a little crimping set, you can go on the back of them. They usually come with a little 1/4-inch phone jack, but you can wire them up to any kind of radio there is out there with just a little bit of ingenuity. Then I have an ICOM. Let's see how you turn this little guy on. This is an aircraft radio. That will low battery right now, but it will transmit and receive on any of the aircraft frequencies from 118 to 136.
Wow, that's a fine.
So most people that would have this would be a pilot that would be in a small plane and maybe flew on the weekends or stuff, and you can put all your frequencies in that. We've used it to talk a helicopter into our property when we did the ATV park.
Out of me, but it was fun.
Yeah, you were there. That's right.
I did take it.
And this is an ICOM radio. This is the mobile version of that aircraft radio.
Oh, okay.
This is like a 50-watt ICOM aircraft transceiver.
I see.
Real durable radio. It's very heavy. 12 volts, just plugs into a cigarette lighter or direct wire. And for a scanner, if you hook this thing up to like a discone or an antenna cut for aircraft, it's amazing. You can get aircraft that would be well over probably 150, 200 miles from here with that radio.
That is just fantastic. So we got the Grand Tour, and then you have the antennas on the roof, and it looks like some archived scanners sitting back there.
Yeah, the older scanners, an old 2006 RadioShack came out in 1990. Another one of these Pro-197 RadioShacks. A Baofeng VHF 220. I've got several DMR handhelds, Connect Systems, the ICOM aircraft. This is a good radio for people that want to get into ham. And they say, well, gosh, ham radio is expensive. You can get this radio for about $100 from Bridgecom. It's a Bridgecom 220 handheld. I've used it with an external mag mount on the Jeep, and I've talked on the local 220 repeater all the way to Tarboro, North Carolina. Hey Kevin, KI4DCR on the portable. How copy?
Solid copy, Charles. How's it going?
Good. I'm here with KI4CFS Martin that was at our party, and we're doing a little YouTube video on different forms of ham radio technology, scanners, and so forth. And I just wanted to demo this Bridgecom 220.
Good afternoon to Martin as well. And
Hey.
Yeah, that radio sounds great. And you guys are doing the right thing on a rainy day, staying inside.
Absolutely. We have movie tickets at 3:30 for a movie called Dark Waters. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to see how this little guy was doing. I was explaining to Martin, this is a cheap handheld that's well quality built. Bridgecom, that somebody that just wants to get into ham radio and get started could use this even with an outdoor antenna or a longer replacement antenna and do quite well with it.
Well, it's got great audio, that's for sure. And I mean, it sounds every bit as good as your regular mobile.
Yeah, and that regular mobile's like a $500 Motorola, so that's saying something. All right, I'll let you ride on, see if anybody else might want to get in there. It's KI4DCR. Thank you.
Sure enough, you guys have a great afternoon. Good to talk to you. KN4AAG Mobile, clear.
Great little radio, easy to program, don't need the software. You can do it right from the keypad. You can adjust the power, make it scan, all kinds of neat stuff. Battery lasts forever on it.
And Kevin is Friday.
I keep a spare one on the hand at all times.
Cool.
When we go to Duke with Susan, I carry a go bag, I carry this, and I got to go outside and get the Mac Daddies of the things for you.
Okay.
So
All right.
pause
We'll
for a
look at
minute,
that too.
and I'll show you the
Yeah.
Motorola stuff. I
Yeah.
got to go to the truck and pick them up.
This is two you had in the truck.
Motorola XTS 5000s. They're a little older radio, but I say a little older, probably 4 to 5 years back. But they have been modified to receive and work as scanners. On the this one's on the Wake County public safety system, and they work really well for that. They are made so or programmed so there was no chance that they will transmit. It takes a bit of work to do this and to get these set up, but they're
Great SUV, North Carolina, Tom full zebra, 8
probably the best scanner that you can get, and they're portable, durable. You don't have to really do anything. I had a guy set it all up for me and help me, get the talk groups I wanted in there. So I've got like Raleigh Police, and I've got all the talk groups for the fire department, EMS, and then I've got EMS, fire department, all that. I've got TAC channels for Raleigh PD. And then I've got Wake County Sheriff and a lot of the county-wide stuff in this one. So that's the Wake County one. Pretty easy. It's just zones, just like a scanner, kind of like banks. Not a whole lot of difference. And then this one here is the Wake County Viper system, or North Carolina, it's a state Viper system. And I've got Highway Patrol in this one. I've got all the hospitals that are around the Raleigh area. A little bit of everything, and this one will work from here to the beach because I programmed everything along my drive to correlate with my ride. But these are durable radios. These are not something you'd want to buy yourself and do on your own unless you had really extensive background with Motorola radios, because if you were to take one of these and you had it in a transmit mode and it did transmit on their system, they're going to come and pick you up.
Right,
and it's
right,
not
and
going to be
they
a fun,
should.
and it's not going to be a fun time. So we've got these set, so there's no way
Yeah, you can't.
if you
by
accidentally
accident.
hit it, it's not going to do anything.
yeah,
But
but
they're
it's
the most
cool.
fantastic scanner there is. I'd like to have one more for the Dare County system down at the beach. When I got these were actually old Raleigh Police radios. They've gone with a newer version now, but they're about as solid a radio as you get. I've dropped them, and they've been bounced around in the truck. But the cool thing is the portability. But they don't match up to this little guy.
Yeah, interesting.
These radios you can get for about $300. The programming's another couple of $100 to get it set up right. But you can spend $600 and get this, and it'll do the same thing.
So with the changes coming, can you see a time when it'll be a while before you can't hear things? I mean, if they all go to the lock system.
Well, eventually AT&T is rolling out this thing, and I think it's called OneCall, and it will deliver every call and everything to first responders. And don't quote me on the name of it because it may be something else. But it's one something, and it transmits everything to their radios via satellite, high speed, like 5G. So everything would go straight to an iPad-like device. If you were at a house fire, they would be chatting throughout with these handheld devices, and there wouldn't be any radio. It would all be done, through a secure satellite feed. But that's about 10 years away, they're saying. But this radio is so sensitive that that's picking up Chapel Hill, UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, with a little whip antenna from here in North Raleigh. So that hospital's probably a good 35 miles from here, and it's clear as a bell. But yeah, it'll be a while before that happens around here. And I say,
a lot too.
It does. You're talking millions and millions of dollars to upgrade, and on the Viper system, there's thousands upon every county in North Carolina, which are 100 counties, has Viper technology of some way. They may not use it primarily, but they have access to it. So anytime they change something, everybody, if they change something system-wide, everybody's got to get new radios that conform to a no protocol. So, I think that's 2025 that Viper's going to shift to phase 2. And there's more people out there that there's some of the hams that work with the Viper system that would be more knowledgeable about the changes. But I say, while you can monitor all this stuff, get your stuff and do it, because there may come a day when you can't do it. And that's my big thing, is I encourage people, same with ham radio and all that, I encourage people to get into it, keep the hobby going, keep the frequencies. If you lose a lot of people, the frequencies may eventually go away.
Yeah.
So, but I'm an avid person that if you feel up to doing something, you can afford to do it while you can.
Charles, would you explain the different systems? Because you've got analog, you've got digital, you've mentioned Viper, and there's phase 1 and 2, and 2's newer. I want you to kind of describe the different, and where does someone go to find out if a frequency is analog or digital?
The best way to start with all those questions is the Radio Reference Wiki. And that is kind of a Wikipedia of radio information. And I find stuff on that site every week that I didn't know existed. I found tone outs for the fire pagers. I found just a wealth of information. Aircraft frequencies that I never knew existed. But it's radioreference.com. And I encourage people to spend the $30 for a premium membership for a year, because you can go in there and set all your favorite systems, your favorite live audio, your favorite systems. That'll send you a text when something changes, and you can go in there and use it to program. A lot of these radios can be programmed through that database. All the scanners pretty much can. And that would explain all, because there's a lot, you could go on for hours with the different, and it's a little more technicality than I really know about. I know the DMR is linked through the internet, and that's what makes that work the way it does. Whereas the 700 and 800 megahertz are a series of towers, much like the old technology, just on a higher, it's more like a spread spectrum technology. But radioreference.com and the wiki on that site, or the database, and they also have a forums group. There's a forum for everything. There's a forum for communication users. There's a forum for Motorola people that want to transform these radios into hobby radios. And there's a forum for every kind of scanner that's out there.
My old RadioShack scanner.
Yep. And things have changed even in ham radio, because I never thought I'd see something like DMR. Because like on the old repeaters, say if you and I were talking on 220 and somebody else wanted to talk and talk with, say, Craig across town, they'd have to wait until we got done.
Right.
With DMR, you can go to chat 1, Craig and Mark can talk over there while you and I are still talking on the main channel. And then there's chat 2, there's other, Southeast Direct, there's other forms that you can go on there. So it's kind of similar to the 800, where you can have several people talking on one system and not lose the strength of the connection. So that's very cool for ham radio. you know about the D-Star. That's something that I know nothing about. So I want to learn about that. Possibly get a radio that does that. And then there's Fusion that's out. There's P25 Digital, which was big for a while back, but now it's not so much. And then N1RIK Bill has put up a series of 900 megahertz repeaters down in the southeastern part of the state, from Hamlet, Southern Pines, Sanford, and hopefully eventually he's going to build them into Raleigh, because 900 megahertz is big in other parts of the United States, but I hope that's coming here too. So there's a lot of hams that have a lot of get up and go to do things, and that's what makes the whole hobby stay the way it is. And people donate to like the Piedmont Coastal Repeater Network and RARs and join clubs, and that helps keep the hobby alive. And that's what we need to focus on, is getting new hams, keeping the ones we've got, and self-policing the frequencies, which I don't hear a lot of intermod or QRM, but once in a while you get somebody that's not licensed or does something stupid, but usually if you ignore them, they go away.
Right.
And it's very rare.
And one gentleman asked, if I get a ham radio, can I listen to the scanner frequencies? And the answer is he needs to find out if they're analog.
If
FM,
you're in a
or
rural area, you can listen to a lot of the dispatch stuff on VHF and 400 megs, 460, 450. But if you're not, and you're in an area like Raleigh, you're not going to, buy like, say this DMR radio also does analog channels in the 400 to 500 megahertz range. But it's not, there's really nothing public safety or police around here other than Chatham County that you'd be able to listen to on that radio. 20 years ago, you could go through there and listen to aircraft. You can still listen to aircraft, but you could hear all the Raleigh PD on a radio that was made for ham by just going shifting down. But that's no longer the case, because everything's gone to a more secure platform.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Charles, so much for the grand tour. And I'll let you have the final word. And
final word, if anybody has an old scanner and they want to get it programmed, they can contact me through the 224.16 Facebook page, or Gmail is worldclasscoach@gmail.com. And I'll be glad to try to coach them. If I can't do it, I can send them to somebody else that can, but I have most of the software for all the stuff you see here. And it's pretty easy. When you do it twice or 2 or 3 times a week like I do, you remember it, you don't forget it. It's pretty easy to stay abreast, and I try to stay up with the latest upgrades in technology.
Great, man. Thanks for all that you do to help the community. This has been a great show, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to put a comment below. If you see a resource, share it as well. Also, make sure to subscribe and click the bell. I'm going to put a number of the links you recommend, so they should all be the links you've talked about below.
You could put a link
channel.
to Unication.
Absolutely. The case, the software. We'll get
Scannermaster.com for all the scanners and your cases and antennas. They have just about everything there. If you get something from them, you'll get it in 2 to 3 days. No drama. They never miss anything. They never send stuff wrong. I've been dealing with them for 15 years.
Mention Charles' name if you do it.
Yeah, KI4DCR.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Charles. This was exciting.